Welcome to the Running for Real podcast, where each week we bring you a conversation designed to help you create positive change in your life, community, and planet. It's a collective of conversations about running, the climate emergency, and social justice. Running for Real is for the brave, for those with courage and vulnerability. United by our love of running, we're driving momentum towards some of the really tough challenges we're facing as humanity. So come join me, Tina Muir, and let's get started. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 264 of the Running for Real podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited that you are here and excited to introduce you to our guest today. Now, our guest is the coach of Molly Seidel, who you probably saw a few weeks ago, achieved a bronze medal in the Olympic marathon. It was a pretty amazing moment to watch, even as someone who is not a US citizen. It was pretty cool to see and to be excited for her with all she has been through. And I noticed a few weeks afterwards that her coach had not been interviewed, and I found that kind of interesting. And then Mary Kane was kind enough to say, you should definitely interview Jon. I think he would be a great guest for your show. And I thought, absolutely. And so I'm very excited to welcome Jon Green today. Molly was Jon's first athlete he ever coached. He also has a very successful professional career and collegiate career himself, which you will hear a little bit about. But we wanted to talk mostly about his achievements with Molly, but then also the fact that he is the head coach at Atalanta, New York City, which is the new training group based in New York, which has Mary Kane as the CEO. And it's a really cool opportunity. I loved getting to know Jon. We start off on a very light front, so you will get to have a bit of a laugh to start with. And then it's just really cool to get to know behind the scenes, to feel what it was like in that experience of going through the Olympic trials and then the Olympic marathon and then the bronze medal. You're really going to get to hear a lot of the story that you probably don't know yet. So without any further ado, we're going to hear from one of our sponsors and be right to this episode with Jon Green. Thank you to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. I have been working with Tracksmith for a while now, and you'll probably notice if you look at photos of me, there is rarely a time I am not wearing something Tracksmith, whether I am running, whether I am just in life. I even went out for birthday drinks wearing a Tracksmith tank. I'm a big fan of them. I just ordered, paid for with my money, I should say, a set of Harrier tanks for my Running for Real team, and we have Running for Real printed on them, which I am really excited about, and a lot of people complimented those and said you wanted something, so maybe I'll check into what we can do there. But Tracksmith has those really comfortable, they dry quickly, they wear well, they last well, the quality is high, they are wonderful products to be able to use, and I'm just really excited to be working alongside them, and just they believe in the running community. There is so much good there on their website, which you can go to tracksmith.com to check out more. You can go check out their clothes, which are beautiful. I've mentioned the speed session shorts many a time. The Alston bra, I've recently realized has a phone pocket in it. I did not realize that until literally I was on the website the other day and saw that it said phone pocket. It's a wonderful bra to use. I love that bra, and also any of the tanks. I am always wearing the Harrier tank, the Twilight tank, the Horizon tank. I am always in their tanks, and the guys stuff is wonderful too. So you can go to tracksmith.com and you can use code TINA15 to get yourself $15 off your order of $75 or more. And if you are not able to get yourself something there right now, just go check out their journal, the programs, the things that they are up to. It really is one of my favorite brand websites, maybe my favorite brand website, and you don't say that very often, right? But it really is a wonderful place to go. So go to tracksmith.com to check it out. Jon, thank you so much for joining me today on the Running for Real podcast. I'm excited you are here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm super stoked. It'll be a fun time.
It will be. And first I have to start with something very serious. Okay. Ready for this? So you can see me, the listeners cannot. Do you see what's in my background? What are there a lot of in my background?
I see a lot of plants and books.
Okay. So the plants, I noticed it was such a relevant, maybe insecurity of yours, should we say, a fun insecurity, that it is on the Atalanta website, that even though your name is Jon Green, you said, this is you, I do not, in fact, have a green thumb and struggle to keep my houseplants alive. Now, I don't know if you can see, but this one on the far is dying, really dying. And I'm also struggling. So since that went up on the website, do you have any advice?
Yeah, don't buy plants. Buy fake plants. That's the key I've learned is if you want any type of greenery in your house, you got to buy the fake plants. Or
but then you don't get the oxygen from them.
It's true. It's a low oxygen environment. It's better. It's like altitude training, but in your house. It's great. Or a ZZ plant, I've learned, it's indestructible. I forget like the proper name for it, but the ZZ plant is what I've been calling it, and it is indestructible. Incredible.
It's not the one that's called also like a cheese plant, is it? There's that one that people have told me. A cheese?
I don't think so, but I'm going to be looking that up so I can bring that in.
Okay. Well,
if I can't kill it, that's better.
One of mine, this one needs watering every 3 weeks, so I'm hoping that's a good one. We'll see.
See, the problem is I'm too nurturing. I overwater. I overwater everything, and it just kills everything. And so my girlfriend has told me that I need to do like a tablespoon of like water to it. Not like I have a gallon jug that I've since
I was doing
of.
that first. So.
It was like, I'll just fill up that. I'll just give it like, a little pour.
You don't want it to be thirsty. So,
Exactly. I was thinking, you know what? I'm thirsty. Like, it would be perfect. But I've learned that is not the way to go about it. So my mom has actually saved one of my plants though, which has been awesome.
Maybe someone listening what is the term for someone who's good with plants? Is that botanist?
I think so.
Yes. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Someone who
is a phlebotomist, but I was like, that's definitely not it.
Okay. Someone listening, if you are a plant person and you breed plants, can you breed a runner plant that runners can overwater because they're trying to make up for their own lack of hydration? Yeah. And then the plant thrives. So can someone come up with that plant? They're like, people listening are like, yeah, it's called grass. It's outside.
Which in theory, like in practice, I'm terrible at watering my grass. So there's just discrepancies.
Okay. Well, we'll let you off the hook because then with your name. But sorry to go off topic there, people. But that really caught my attention because I'm very sensitive about one of mine just dying in the corner, and I can't figure out what's wrong with it. Getting back on topic. Okay, so we have a lot to unpack with you. There's the element of your own career, which we will talk about a little bit. There is the element of being the head coach at Atalanta, New York City, which the listeners will have recognized Mary Kane talking about that a few months ago as the founder and CEO. And we will also talk about the no big deal thing of Molly Seidel achieving bronze in the Olympics recently, to which you coached her. Firstly, I'd love to start with another thing that comes off the Atalanta website, which people should check out, by the way. It is a beautiful website. It is. I just want to spend all day there. It is so nice. You have a family business that is in, is it Wellesley? That's how we say it, right?
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Which many people, including myself, when they saw it, it's like, oh, that's where all the girls scream, right? On the Boston course. And so you have this family business on the course of the marathon. I take it that thought has come through, but has that always been something people have said to you? Like, you were destined to be involved in the marathon. You know, that had to be the way. Like, what are the chances of it being on this like iconic part of the Boston Marathon course? Have you had that conversation?
Funny. Yeah, it's funny. People have definitely said that. Like, I've always one day, hopefully I'll run past the store during the Boston Marathon. Not this coming year or the following year, probably. I'm a little too busy with a few other things right now. But yeah, it's definitely going to be something I'm definitely looking forward to in the future for sure, of running past the store during the Boston Marathon, and hopefully having my parents there and my brother there to cheer me on. Yeah.
Well, you would hope that they would make the effort to step outside the door to go do that, right?
We're actually closed on that day, actually. actually. So maybe we'll actually stay open for that day, the one day I do it.
There you go. Could grab a load of customers who are coming from watching the Boston Marathon.
Exactly.
I love it. And you went yourself to Georgetown. You were a multi-time All-American and an academic All-American, which for listeners who may not have heard of academic All-American, I'm not sure I brought that up, but that means you are, what is it? It's a 3, you're basically at the top of the class, the top of the NCAA in terms of like academics combined with athletics. And it's not something that, I don't know how many people get it, but it's not that many, is it? 75?
I'm not totally sure. I to be honest with you, I'm not totally sure on the criteria. When I got it, I was just excited. So it's something to do with the regional qualification, like people who make it to regionals, I think, or place top X or whatever in the regional race for cross country, then and have above a certain GPA are able to like call themselves academic All-American. So yeah, I was able to get that towards the end of my career at Georgetown, which was very exciting to have.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you went on to then run professionally for a year and a half. And as much as I want to talk about that, I actually want to talk about what happened afterwards in terms of you took some time off for what you called decompressing. And we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I'd love for you to share a bit about what that means, because I think it's hard for recreational athletes to understand that that college process is so intense, just the like strain that you put on yourself, the intensity that it involves, especially at somewhere like Georgetown, and then going straight on, as most people do at that level, to a professional career. It intensifies even more as basically your whole life becomes about your results. And so why would time decompressing be needed, and what did that mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, decompressing to me after I left my professional career of like running and kind of started switching over into coaching, it was from my running perspective, it was just that I was really burnt out, for lack of a better word, which means every day was kind of hard to get out the door, I found. And so I eventually was like, all right, why are we forcing something that, I don't have? I came to the realization that I don't have any races that I have to do for contract reasons, or I'm not supporting a team right now. I can just kind of focus on myself. And so as actually only a couple months ago, I kind of started getting back into like easy runs. And so when it's nice out, at least I do go out there's some nice single track trails down like a mile from my house. And so I generally run into those, play around for a little bit, and then run back, it's just enjoyable for me. And so that's kind of what everybody kind of talks about, the joy that they find in running. And so I lost that joy basically. And so I'm trying to refine it essentially. And so, yeah, that's kind of what decompressing. And so that's something that I kind of bring into my coaching as well, is like looking at the idea of like athletes wanting to get out the door, because there's times in training where maybe you've been training for like a year straight or even 6 months or just done a marathon build or whatnot. And you're just like, oh, man, I don't want to go out the door today. Well, it's okay. We don't need to, you know what I mean? Like take a break and let your body heal, let your mind heal a little bit, like have some fun, you know what I mean? And enjoy it.
So in an ideal world, if you could set up the collegiate system, maybe the professional running system, and as you are a coach who now has some very impressive credentials, you may have that power someday. What would you suggest, or maybe even now to some extent, what would be ideal for you, do you think, for athletes in terms of, and this can apply to people listening as well, right? Like running is relative. What would you say is ideal in terms of amount of time training, racing, preparing, doing race or races, and then how long someone takes off and then beginning again?
It's difficult because there is that balance where I found like I finally had the time to take complete time off because I have no obligations to race or anything like that. Somebody like Molly, obviously, like we do have to race here and there. And she loves running. So she's, she's running 3 days after the marathon because she just enjoys it. And so I think it all really comes down to each individual athlete and finding the right situation for them. And I think the biggest thing is talking with their coaches and whatnot and finding like a good situation. Where when I was in college, I found that me taking time off actually led to injury, which was worse for my mental state than like not taking time off at all. And so what I would do is by not my time off, quote unquote, would be like 2 weeks of running every other day or something like that. So I never like got too far away from it. But it made coming back to running a lot easier and a lot smoother and allowed me to have kind of the successes that I had while I was there as well.
So what would you do to prevent the burnout you experienced then? If you weren't, surely that was part of it, right? That you never took that total time off?
A little bit. I think the burnout, a lot of it actually came from being in an injury cycle. So I was in an injury cycle for like a full year of like, okay, I'm running for 6 weeks. Oh, now I'm injured again. I'm running for 6 weeks. I'm not injured again. And so it was that constant, like during that year time period, I was off, quote unquote, from running, but then I was always thinking about running. Like I was always trying to get back to running. I was doing all my PT exercise, things like that, which led me to just being like mentally on all the time. And so, yeah, in college, I found I wasn't super burnt out, to be honest with you. I came out of college pretty like ready to go. And I found myself in an injury cycle at the end of the day. And that's kind of what led me to getting super burnt out and super tired. And so that was kind of, and then eventually ended up training on my own, which multiplied it a little bit. Cause then I was self-coached at that point. And so that was also another, complicated, situation that I put myself in of now I'm coaching myself. I have to like, one of the things I try to do is kind of be that third person stepped off the wall a little bit, meaning I'm not with athletes. I try to step back like a foot or two and see the things that they don't see. But when I was the athlete and the coach, then I'm nose to the wall, can't see very far in front of me and just trying to figure it out from there, you know?
So from that perspective, do you believe that every runner should have a coach, even if that coach is not necessarily setting the workouts, but is just kind of looking at it as a whole saying, hey, that might be a little much?
Yeah, I think not even a coach term, like you can throw coach in there. You can also just throw like a friend to talk to about it. You know what I mean? And that's how Molly and I started working together at the end of the day was we were friends. And I was just like, hey, listen, like I know being coached by yourself can be difficult. And so like, if you need me to hold a stopwatch, like be there for a workout, or if you need me to write a couple workouts. And that's what it ended up coming down to is I wrote a few workouts at a like 2 week by 2 week basis. And so that was something that like, it was more of a accountability, especially in the beginning. And it's somebody, I think everybody needs somebody to just like bounce ideas off of. And that person kind of needs to know the sport a bit. I think they can't just be some amateur runner who doesn't have any experience or is just starting out. Like it's one of those things where somebody with a little bit of experience can go a long way and just helping you get some perspective on your own running.
Yeah, no, I love that. You wouldn't know this, but my husband was also my coach. And so he was in a very difficult position with like having to deal with my crazy while like also trying to be my husband. But now, you know, I'll be like, it's so nice that I can pretty much just write my own stuff because I'm making it up as I go along. But I can be like, what do you think about this? And he's like, I can just tell by the look of his face, like, I'm not sure that's the best idea. But it has to be someone who knows what they're doing. So let's talk about that. So this is such a crazy story, like when we step back and think about it, about you two being friends. You'd crossed paths at the Saucony Freedom Track Club. And you mentioned you started working together. And from what I read, it was 2 week blocks that you would send her. And then from what I read here, if she liked the workouts, you'd continue. If she didn't, you'd change them. So talk about that. Like for you as someone, did you sense there was something special in her and there was a lot of pressure you felt, or did it at that time feel very much like just supporting a friend and you were just able to remove the pressure and just, if she said she didn't like something, say, okay, you know, let's work around this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, Molly and I are best friends. And so that's kind of where it was. Obviously, our friendship was more early on then, I guess. And so it was more just like helping out a friend and just, lending a hand and seeing what I can do. Obviously, I had zero coaching experience prior to that. And so I think she kind of knew that as well. And so that's more what it was just like, hey, listen, like, I can give you some workouts. We talked about what she liked doing in the past and that worked well, what didn't work well, and in finding kind of the middle ground. Me and her are pretty like similar athletes from what we like workout wise. And so it was pretty easy for me to kind of adapt what I like doing into like workouts for her. And she gave me feedback being like, yeah, I felt like this worked or this didn't work. And it was just that open line of communication at the end of the day, which made life really easy and made coaching her really easy. So,
And was there that part of you said about not having that coaching experience that said, Molly is, okay, maybe not like a Shalane Flanagan name, although is now, but at the time, maybe a big name, but not like, did you feel that experience of like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't have that experience. Like, did that voice come through?
Yeah, a little bit. And then at the end of the day, I kind of like, yes, I am young. I'm 26. I was 24 when I started coaching her. And so, I mean, it obviously, you look at all the big names in the sport and all like every coach pretty much ever is at least in their 30s to say the least. And so for most of them. And so I kind of took the approach of, I'm just going to try to learn as much as I can and like reach out to the mentors that I have in the sport, the Pat Henner, the Brandon Bonzi, Julie Cully, Mike Smith, especially in the buildup. I reached out to Mike Smith and was just talking to him about, hey, this is kind of what I've read so far and what I understand, what is your opinions on these, and just bouncing ideas off of him. And he gave me really good insight on, the training aspects, and like I'd relate it to what we had both experienced while I was at Georgetown, and like the Georgetown coaching network is extensive, and so we all kind of coach in similar ways, I would say. And so it was just really leaning on my resources at the end of the day, and not being afraid to ask people for help, and then also not being afraid to ask Molly, like, hey, like, is this something you like? Is this like, do you think this is working? Do you think this is getting you fit? Like, and eventually just kind of like listening to her and figuring out and finding, again, like training that works for her at the end of the day is what's going to be best for her,
And do you think a lot of it with her was that maybe her name wasn't previously maybe a Shalane, she was a very impressive athlete. Like, she won Foot Locker, correct? So like, not like she came out of nowhere. She was a very impressive runner in high school, ran well in college, but had been through, some tough challenges in her, growth and healing and recovery. Do you think any part of it was that maybe that took the pressure off her, that it was just two friends kind of discussing what she should do, that helped her to thrive, rather than it being this coach who was this big name coach who had been coaching for 50 years and he'd made all these athletes that better work with her?
I think definitely expectations were low at that point. We were just kind of, she was just like trying to get back into running. She had been a little injured, and so we were just trying to get consistent training. And so I'm sure me coaching her probably was a lot less pressure than if Jerry Schumacher or somebody like that was with all this experience and top name in the coaching world for athletics. I think it's something that probably took some pressure off. But at the end of the day, I think I'm sure Jerry or anybody else in the sport could talk to you about how it's about a line of communication and just making sure that an athlete is like being taken care of and making sure that they're getting what they need. And at the end of the day, they know their bodies far better than I ever will or anybody else ever will. And so that's what the most important thing is at the end of the day, is making sure they like have what they need.
Thank you to UCANS for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. It is marathon training season. I am signed up for 2 marathons this fall and a 50k, which means I am back using my UCAN all the time. I'd never really left my life, but now I'm using it even more than I was before. And I want to tell you about UCAN Edge, which is their gel. Represents this quantum leap in how athletes are going to be fueling for sport. It's the first and only on-the-go training fuel powered by superstarch. It's going to put you in an ideal performance state by keeping your blood sugar stable so you can work smarter and harder. There are no spikes, no crashes. It's trusted by many of the pros you know and love. And as I mentioned, without sugar. I recently did a long run with a group while on vacation and they had a sugary solution every 3 miles, which was fine. But by the end, it was so gross, so sticky and sugary. And I just didn't like it at all. I had to just switch to straight water. And I missed my UCAN terribly. So get this long-lasting fuel, no sugar, no fast carbs, digests easily, is good on the stomach, easy on the stomach. Edge is definitely something that you guys are loving and telling me about, which I love to hear. And I'm also using a lot of the salted peanut butter energy bars, which I take with me on my runs and eat them on the go because they digest so easily. They are using natural peanut butter and just a hint of salt. And you can get yourself 20% off by going to ucan.co/TINAMUIR, ucan.co/Tina Muir. That will get you 20% off your order. Go check them out. When you have been reading up, you're asking other people, how much of it do you feel as a coach is about you knowing the concepts, understanding the science, asking others, looking at your own experience, and how much of it is knowing that individual as a human being? I mean, I mention this because I come across a lot of coaches who understand the science. They love the science, but they almost like take it to athletes like a prescription, and they don't think about that athlete as a human and that what is involved. And Mary obviously ties into this perfectly. Alberto, perfect example of someone who tried to take a method and implant it on someone else. Yeah, with your own coaching now, do you think about that point a lot about how much of the individual comes into what works for them?
Yeah, so obviously, I think they're both needed in order to be successful, I would say, and have an athlete run fast. So if you only know science but you don't know the athlete, then aren't tailoring it to the athlete and how the athlete's feeling on a daily basis, then you're going to lead to probably a burnt out athlete at the end of the day. You're going to have an athlete who's just very tired and at time and doesn't feel comfortable probably with telling you how they're feeling. And so with the same aspect, if you don't know any of the science and don't understand it at all and only care about what the athlete, and anytime an athlete tells you oh, I'm feeling a little tired, then they're also not going to have success. And so it's that combination of both that I think is really important. And I'm sure Molly has told me, or other athletes have told me hey, I'm feeling a little run down, and I've given them a day off where maybe they didn't need the day off and they would have been fine. But it's one of those things where I tend to err on the side of caution. I would say my training is probably a little bit more conservative than other coaches in the athletics world. But at the same aspect, it's so far I've had some good success with it, and I'm
just a little bit of success.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to coach that way until I find a better way, essentially. And so that's why I'm always looking to kind of adapt and learn from my peers at the end of the day and hear how they're doing things. And I was talking with Ben Rosario when we were over in Sapporo a bit about how he approaches things, because he's obviously had a ton of success as well. And so that's kind of what I'm looking to do here, is always be a sponge and always try to learn. And there's things that I have my way set in and I believe that this is the right way. And so I'll hear coaches speak a certain way and I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm always willing to learn about it at the end of the day.
I love that. And I hope you keep that curiosity as well. Let's talk about the trials. Going into the trials, Molly was one of the names up there, but maybe not someone who was considered a favorite. What was your experience like, having not, been being a first-time coach at an experience like the trials, and knowing that Molly was fit, knowing that she is a fierce competitor? I think I've read somewhere about you sweating like crazy as you panicked as she ran around. But tell us about that experience of what it's like to be a coach, coaching someone who is trying to race for an Olympic spot.
Yeah, I mean, Molly and I going into the race was something that like I had told her. I forget a little bit now. I think it was third to 15th is where I told her like place wise she could be. And I mean, looking at the field on that day, it was a bunch of incredible women at the end of the day. And so like we knew that it was going to be a hard race, and it was her first marathon, of course. And so it was going to be something that was a new experience and like just excitement at the end of the day. And so I think I was more nervous than she was during the race, but we just went into it with kind of like an open mind towards whatever happens. We know it's going to be difficult, but at the end of the day, we know it's a marathon, and we just got to be tough and hang in there for as long as we can, and just try to be smart and enjoy ourselves at the end of the day.
Had you run a marathon yourself?
I have not. Still have not.
Okay, so how did you ask other people about like to know where you're? I mean, it still astounds me that she was able to run as she did in her first marathon, and know where that line was without having done it before. So how did you both go about that, knowing you hear about the marathon, about hitting the wall, about you see it where people, and you must have seen it up close, like where people smash into that and just go backwards quickly. How did you both know how to teach her how to find the line?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we weren't even necessarily concerned with making the team, I guess, in the marathon. we were using the marathon build there as a stepping stone for hopefully the 10,000 meter trials later. Well, it was supposed to be in June. That obviously didn't happen, but that was kind of what we were using it as a stepping stone. And so we were just approaching it kind of as a normal race. Obviously, we had originally planned on doing the Houston Marathon, but with the marathon trials being like, I think it was like 8 weeks later or something like that, it was kind of a good turnaround time. And so we decided to do the half there and just step into the marathon trials. And just, again, our goal going into the marathon like block was just to be consistent and just training at a higher level than she had been able to over the past couple of years. And so being injury free was like the top of our priority list at the end of the day. And so that's kind of how we went into that marathon block and into the marathon itself on marathon day. Obviously, she was nervous because she's a competitor and loves to compete, but at the same aspect, and that's why I approached it as like, hey, listen, if we're back in 20th, that's fine too. We're having a great day. You know what I mean? Like any day is a good day there. You're coming away with a PR, as they say, no matter what. So
yeah, that's so true.
Exactly, and that's how we went into it.
So then what happened when she moved into second and went off with Alafine? What was going through your mind?
Oh, I was so stoked.
Like, did you feel confident she'd hold it together?
Yeah, yes, obviously, like, first thing was like, I hope everything's like, Molly knows her, like, is a very good racer at the end of the day. And I think that's something that she's shown, especially in the last couple of races, or last 3 races, I should say, in the marathon. But I think, so I kind of trusted that she knew what she was doing and she was being like smart about it. I had joked with her that I didn't want her to take the lead until mile 26 because it was so windy in Atlanta that day and whatnot. And so, when she took the lead, I was definitely very excited, a little nervous, obviously, but I had rented a bike from some guy on Craigslist real quick. And so I had biked like out on, there was a little like, it was almost like there was only no fans out there at that point, but it was like one of the last water stations. And so I had saw that her and Alafine had broken away pretty much completely from Sally at that point, and there was a decent gap. And so I was like getting confident, pretty happy since Sally was in third and there was still a decent ways back to fourth as well during that. And so it was just really exciting. And so I tried to get back to the finish line as fast as possible and just get into the finish corral so I could celebrate, which was a thing of its own.
So then was there a bit of a media storm around you being this new coach of hers? And did you feel that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. There's definitely people who kind of were like, "Who is Jon Green?" Which is a very very fair question. And so, yeah, I did definitely a few media things and a few podcasts here and there. And so, yeah, I like to stay in the background a decent amount. And so, I just enjoy coaching. And so, the media is obviously it's fun and enjoyable. Going on podcasts like this is awesome and really exciting. But I couldn't do the amount of media that Molly does at this point. That's for sure. It would definitely be too much for me. So try to stay in the background.
So we feel fortunate here that we get to hear you with all your energy rather than it being spent. So let's go through to when the Olympics were postponed to 2021. Did that give you a thought of like, yes, that gives me another year to perfect things, to find things, to figure things out? You know, obviously it was disappointing, but was there a part of you feeling almost relieved that you had some more time to get to know Molly and what works for her?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for us, if there was anything of a silver lining over the past couple of years with COVID for us, it was definitely the postponement of the Olympics. That really helped. I mean, Molly was able to get a second marathon in at London, which was awesome, and another great experience. She was put into kind of the quarantine bubble that was happening up in Tokyo and Sapporo as well. And so it was something that was, invaluable at the end of the day when it comes to just giving her experience and getting put in another marathon race. And it was just something that, from a training perspective as well. I mean, the workouts we were doing this year in the build leading into the Olympics compared to what we were doing leading into Atlanta in 2020 were just totally different. I mean, not totally different. That's not the right word, but just different paces. We were running a lot faster for threshold workouts. We're handling a lot more volume. And so we were able to make that leap that gave us such a good stepping stone towards heading towards the Olympics and having the success that we did.
How did you keep yourself grounded then? And knowing that you were coaching Molly to the Olympics, you had this time to prepare, but also knowing that you had one of the, America's sweethearts in your hands to get ready for race day. How did you keep yourself, your feet on the ground, like I still need to keep learning and that curiosity we mentioned earlier, but also keep confident in yourself and what you were doing and not second guessing everything?
Yeah, I mean, again, the mentors that I have surrounding me that I kind of mentioned earlier, they help a ton, and like just being able to chat with them whenever I need to, I talked to I talked to Mike Smith about race strategy going into London and how we should approach it and stuff like that. And that's something where I wasn't sure. And so I know whenever I want, I can kind of give him a ring and he'll pick up and just help me out and kind of answer any questions I have. And like, just has been really helpful towards that. And so, and then also with like Molly and I like to keep things very like casual and having fun. And like, I mean, in Sapporo, I brought up like these 6-inch like googly eyes and like taped them to her hotel room door. And so it was just one of those things like we just like to have fun and like keep things enjoyable. And so I think there was never that real pressure of like, okay, we never were really talking about the Olympics. We weren't talking about medaling. We weren't talking about we were just talking about like training for that day. And like, if there was an upcoming race, like we did a half marathon down in Atlanta as well. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about that coming up or London or what. We were just having like, we're not really concerned about like, the big picture race, if you will, leading into it. But with that being said, we were both kind of talked after the Olympics and we were like, well, we are so happy that the Olympics went through and happened. And then we're like glad that this race that had been on our futures for however many, like a year and a half basically, or is like, we've completed it. We're good. Mm-hmm. So we were definitely really excited about that and kind of can start thinking forward towards the next thing, which is really exciting.
Yeah. I want to go through the Olympic race and then we'll move on to some other things. But I remember reading that you told her to pack her white kit. What is the term over here?
The medal award ceremony jacket. Yeah, like the kit that they wear on the award ceremony.
Kit. That is the word?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's a kit. Yeah.
Okay, because we say kit in England, but I didn't think that was the same word. It was like
my girlfriend's British, and so I tend to.
So you might be confused as well. When you said give a ring a minute ago, and I was like, give a ring, like that's an English thing to say.
She's gonna listen to this and just be like, oh, Jesus.
That's funny. So I want to talk to her. You can leave now. I'll have a conversation with her. You told her to pack her white kit. I'm pretty sure that's not the word the Americans say, but we'll outfit, just go with it.
That's what
outfit?
What it is.
Is that what you say?
Like it was the medal award ceremony, like outfit or.
Okay. So you told her to pack that last minute. Was there any like gut feeling that something special was about to happen, or was that literally just you being conscientious and just saying it anyway?
So we had met as all the coaches and the support team that was up in Sapporo with us, which they were all awesome. And so that was one thing that we were told or that I heard at least, was like everybody should bring their kit and make sure, like their award ceremony kit, to make sure that like if anything happened, like we're prepared for it. And so we came down, and the other athletes that were down there, and nobody else had theirs with them, because it comes in like a suit bag. Basically, it's a very noticeable thing. You can't just like stick it in a backpack. And so
anyone who carries it is like, well, I think I have a chance.
Yeah. And so we went down to go through bag check, like a security bag check in the hotel before we boarded the buses. And she's noticed that I'm the only one that's she's carrying it or whatever. And she was like, oh, we should just bring it back. And I was like, no, I'll take it. I'll carry it for you. Like, not a big deal. Like, we'll just sit in the athlete tent that we have and at the start line and whatnot, and we'll just keep it there just in case or whatever. And yeah, so I'm very happy I did. It was almost, I've joked with her about this afterwards. It was like telling a child on like a winter day that like, yeah, let's bring the winter coat. Like, let's bring it. And so it was just like, I thought we had to as well. So I was just like, you know what, like, if anybody medals, like, it's just one of those things where it would have been really difficult to get back to the hotel to get it in time. And from a parent standpoint, for Team USA and the US OPC, it's just like, I think it's important to wear what they want you to wear, I guess. And so, so that's why we brought it. But it was a fun, looking back, it's a kind of a fun thing. And if we had put as much like, looking at it as much as we did in the instant, I probably would have been like, oh, that's bad juju to like bring it in, like bad luck, but it's fine. It worked out in the end. Yeah.
Well, yes, it did. Which was more stressful for you, while she was running the trials or while she was running in the Olympics? And in both cases was, right up there, but in the Olympics obviously fell back, but in the trials was, had broken away. Like, tell us about the differences between those two experiences.
I think both were pretty stressful. Actually, Ben Rosario took a video of me like mid-race and posted it on his Twitter, and so I'm sure you can link it somewhere, or people can find it. And it's him asking me how I'm doing and how I'm feeling, and it's me just like I set up my phone on my backpack because that was the only way we could watch the race. There's no video board or anything like that where we were, and so I was just like eyes glued to it watching. And so it was really nice. Was in Atlanta, I was able to kind of travel around and see her a bunch and see her a lot compared to what I was able to see her during support, like the marathon up at Sapporo, or the Olympics, I should say. And so that was just the only like big difference there. But stress levels were definitely both like high for the most part. Definitely a higher stress day.
So what happened when I can't remember the name of the woman who was in third?
Saltpeter.
Yeah.
She's Israeli, I believe. Yes.
So when she walked, and it was, kind of that gap opened up for Molly, and it was clear this was going to happen. What went through your head there? If you were watching it on the screen, you're obviously seeing this happen, right?
Yeah, I did see it happen, and so I was like, I definitely.
But then a video of that.
Cheered. There's no video of that. Yeah, no, I actually cheered. And so, I realized that, I cheered, but then they were also on the bus with all the other, like a bunch of other teams as well. And so I realized that wasn't the most appropriate thing to do. And so I tried to like temper it a little bit. And so, and try to like be a little bit more quiet and stuff like that. And that was something that Ben was like, hey, let's like, there are other people. And so that was something that was definitely like, it was super exciting, but then also like, it's same thing I kind of saw in the Olympic trials after the marathon had finished. Like, obviously Molly is super high and like, just like loving life and is super exciting. But then you also see the people who miss the team and just like, so you see like the absolute highs and the absolute lows. And so, and then you also see people who are just like in the middle as well. And so that was kind of, that's one thing that I've kind of didn't expect when if you've told me to be at the marathon trials or at the Olympics, you don't expect to see that. But then that's kind of one thing that like, I definitely was, like starkly aware of, for sure, of like the highs and the lows of at the end of a race, for sure.
Yeah. When you watched her coming down that straightaway, were you watching it on the phone or were you able to be at the finish line for that moment?
I wasn't. So I was at the 13.1 or 13 kilometer, 23 kilometer and 33 kilometer water stations. And we had to take a bus to and from like the start finish line area, like the tent area. And so we were waiting for them to move all the tables in the last runner to pass before we could leave and head over to the finish line. So I watched it finish like on the screen, which was very exciting and very happy. I was very happy, I should say. And it was definitely, I didn't get to like see Molly for another like 10, 15, 20 minutes or so.
Wow.
And so she was going through media at that point, and like the first round of media, I should say. And so that's when I was finally able to like catch up. And it was funny enough, I brought her like award ceremony like kit with me because they like, one of the people who was like helping with the event was like, oh, we need to bring this to her so she can like go through that before, because they had just an award ceremony, not the medal ceremony itself, at the finish line of the marathon.
Ah, okay. And what do you remember? What the first things you said to each other were?
It was like, we did it, which was, it was really exciting. Yeah, it was sweet.
It was so cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
I wish somebody was there with the camera, but I don't think anybody was. I think everybody was just getting like audio that day or at that time. So.
Thank you to Inside Tracker for sponsoring this episode of the Running for Real podcast. Inside Tracker knows that change is an inside job, and it is a way for you to check out what is going on the inside. Blood work is one of the best ways you can do that. I have been using this for many years. I've had 10 plus tests, and I love that they track my numbers of each of my stats, I guess, over time, biomarkers, that's the term. They track them over time so I can see how I'm doing, see which ones are in optimize, have moved into optimize, out of optimized, and make changes based on what it recommends. It gives you foods to eat. It gives you lifestyle changes you can make. It is going to be really easy for you to track. And it's just going to give you these science-based recommendations for a positive diet and lifestyle change that you can use. It's going to give you that concrete action plan. So someone is just telling you what to do within your life based on your body, which is what we all need, right? We all are trying to make too many decisions in our day-to-day life. As I said, I've been using Inside Tracker for many years. I love it. And you, my friend, as a Running for Real listener, can get 25% off your order by going to Inside Tracker. That's insidetracker.com/Tina. That will get you 20% off your order. And it is a wonderful way to just keep an eye on how your body is doing. Highly recommend it. I've been using it for years. Thank you again to Inside Tracker. Yeah. I mean, the video of her finishing, I think, is pretty iconic, and people have watched that over and over and over again. So I'm glad they at least have that one. Yes, I'm sure you have. You're like, I did that. Well, I was a part of that. But as a former athlete, I know how invaluable the coach's input is. So you did do it. And that's why she said we did it. So before we move on a bit to Atalanta and some of the other things you have for the future, you know, how do you and Molly keep things? How do you keep motivating yourselves, both you continuing to improve as a coach and for her looking forward? I mean, the next Olympics are 4 years away. And yes, there's 2 more spots in front of that. Oh, 3 more years away. Yep. It is 2021. So you've got that time. Yes, I know. It does feel weird thinking that. You're like, got 5 years and then 3 years. So you've got that time. You've also got 2 spots in front of her, but then it would be very easy to say, okay, well, we've both, there's no going up from here. We've done greater than we ever imagined. How do you keep yourself and her motivated?
I think Molly's like goals in the sport are like, it wasn't just like, oh, I want to get an Olympic medal and then be done with it. You know what I mean? And so like we have a ton of goals. We're going to be doing New York City and this fall. And then we're also going to be trying to shoot for the World Championships marathon, hopefully, in that's going to be hosted in Eugene, Oregon, which is our home World Championships, which is really exciting as well. And so there's faster times. So she's run fast, obviously. And so, but we're always looking to run a little bit faster. And so there's always something that Molly's interested in doing. I think she loves to travel. I think she would agree with me on that. And so like, hopefully, like if we could do like world cross country champs, which are down in Australia next year, like things like that, which are just all like super exciting. And there's always something more that Molly's looking forward to. And that's why it's great working with her. Is it's never just like, oh, like our sights aren't just set right now on like Paris, where we're looking like beyond that. And also there's a ton of things before that as well. And so, yeah, that way we're not looking like being like, okay, we're not doing everything to set up for Paris right now. We're just doing everything to like have fun in the meantime and enjoy races. Like I'm sure she'll do some turkey trot this year again with like in like a turkey costume, because that's who she is. And at the end of the day, she is just like a normal person and just enjoys running and racing and having fun with the sport for sure.
Love that you're keeping that in her and encouraging that as well, because that's, as you said at the beginning with yourself, so important to keeping it enjoyable and keeping that fun in there. It is going to be interesting to see what happens. Like most athletes who end up being Olympic medalists, usually it's like they've done the world championships, they've got the PRs, they've got this, they've got that, and then the one thing that's missing is the Olympic medal. And so she's done it the other way, got that first. So it's kind of nice, takes the pressure off, right? Because you can, like you said, have fun with it and like, oh, let's try New York, or let's, go for this and, go for a world championship. And like you said, cross-country championship. I love that. That is awesome. So it's going to be interesting and fun to watch. And I'm sure people will be really enjoying following along there. I would love to transition now into talking about Atalanta, being the head coach there. How did that come up? Was that something Mary, invited you to do and you thought, what an opportunity? I'd love to hear your, for the listeners that don't know, how did that come about?
Yeah, so Mary and I bumped into each other a number of years ago now at there was a junior world champs team that we were both on that was in Eugene. I think it was 2014. And so we were both on that team and we had bumped into each other then and kind of became friends and kept in contact here and there since then and whatnot. And she eventually kind of reached out to me and started talking to me about this team she was looking to start, I should say. And so that's kind of where it started. And so her and her boyfriend live in an apartment down in New York City. And so I drove down one weekend and we talked for a long time. It was a long weekend. I think we talked for like 8 hours a day. It felt like about the team.
It was clear at this point that she was intending for you to be the coach, or is this just her telling you about it?
So she was kind of offering and pitching me the idea of me being the coach. And there were some things that I like wanted to make sure that with the team of how we're going to structure it. Like I didn't want us to be kind of a cutthroat team or anything like that. I didn't want we wanted to be this team that is kind of changing the industry. And so, especially based off of her experiences and whatnot. And so that was something that one of the things we talked about of how she envisioned it. And also when she was telling me after talking about it for a while is what I envisioned for the team and what I envisioned it looking like. And I think something that's super important for this team and we're looking to create and it doesn't happen overnight, of course, is just having a group of women who are supporting women at the end of the day, and a group of women who are better because of their teammates and know that. And that's what we're looking to kind of start and create, and and just have a hardworking team at the end of the day whose goal is to be successful both in athletics, but also in their careers, and looking forward and understanding that your professional running career doesn't last forever by any means. And so looking to have other connections and do both things at the end of the day.
Why was that important to you? Was that something from childhood or your own professional career?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my resume, I had a decent gap there for a period of time, and while I was professional running, and I feel having a bunch of friends now who are obviously working and getting into their careers, more career jobs, I should say. Now they found oh, well, I had a gap here, a gap there, and so that's something that I feel like employers can sometimes ask of athletes is obviously we're chasing the dream of making the Olympic team at the end of the day, but for a lot of us, it doesn't happen at the end of the day. And so, and that's totally fine. I think there's nothing wrong with chasing your dreams and trying to make the Olympics and medal and whatnot, and and go after your athletics goals. But then the question is, how does that look from their business, a corporation looking to hire you? Is that something that they look down on? Oh, did you run the mile? Did you break 4? No, but did you run the marathon? What did you do? You know what I mean? And so there's that big gap, I feel in kind of the normal population's understanding of running at times. And so they don't understand that oh, well, I was running. As for a woman, I broke 15 in the 5K. I was running really fast, but I just missed the team, you know what I mean? Or something like that.
Yes.
And they kind of look at it from a cut and dry perspective on that. And so there's also from not a busyness standpoint, but a balance in life standpoint, I think. So all the athletes are going to be kind of working that 15 to 20 hours a week with a company that fully gets behind their running career and their goals, as instead of another corporation that they might work part-time for, who's says, yeah, we support your running, but when push comes to shove, they might be hey, listen, we need you to cover this extra shift. I don't care if you have this big race happening. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of what we're looking to do here, is really change it and allow people to have that balance in life with their careers, but also with running, and have a corporation behind them, or a nonprofit behind them in this case, get behind them and say, hey, listen, this is something we're really excited about your running, and we want to support you fully in.
Was it that element that sold you first? Was it Mary, just knowing her, knowing that, she's going places, she's determined, she's a strong woman, and incredible to learn from for all of us. But was it that? Was it the model that she wanted to use? Was it having known professional sports yourself, the model of that? I'd love to hear, what was it that first excited you about this concept?
It was kind of a combination of all of it, to be honest with you. Obviously knowing Mary, what she went through, but also knowing Mary, the personality as well. And then also just the idea of having that balance in life, I think is something that a lot of runners need, but see professional running, whether they're in college or in high school or in the professional ranks, and being oh, well, everybody's working, everybody's working just towards their running goals, but not realizing, they're picking up shifts at the bar, as a bartender, or maybe they're a barista or whatnot, and just they are working on the side to make ends meet at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. With the way that it is structured, like you said, to be a nonprofit that is supporting these athletes, why was that needed for any listeners who are recreational athletes who don't really understand how that's different from the way that professional contracts are otherwise put together for athletes?
Yeah, it's just an interesting world. The whole professional, the professional scene. There's so many NDAs everywhere and whatnot. It's just one of those things where, not everybody, because there's a ton of NDAs. Sorry for those, is non-disclosure agreements, and so there's basically athletes aren't allowed to talk about it. And so it's one of those things where like people don't get the full glimpse into what's going on in a professional runner's career when it comes to requirement, like obligations for the contract of race amounts, like bonuses, like there's such varying degrees across the industry. And so that's something we're kind of, and salaries as well. Salaries is a whole nother like thing as well. And so it's just kind of, yeah, we're trying to bring and show a little bit of light to that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm really excited for it. And I encourage people to go really check out the website and listen to that episode with Mary Kane if you haven't already. She did do a deep dive into that, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes. For you as a coach, you've obviously got this role at Atalanta. You have Molly that you are working with. Is this a case of where you would like to continue taking on athletes, and you'd like to, eventually have multiple people around the country? Is this, you'd love to see Atalanta be this big group that you could, see in person multiple times a week and really build it into another, like you said, mentioned about Ben Rosario, like another Northern Arizona Elite or another Bowerman track club? Like, what do you envision for your future?
Yeah, I mean, I at the end of the day, I just really enjoy coaching, and I think it's a lot of fun. I have a great job right now, and so I think with Molly being separate from Atalanta, obviously she's based in Flagstaff, and so I am traveling out to Flagstaff. The team's doing we'll do altitude camp out in Flagstaff as well, and so we'll be able to kind of be out there together as well. But then Atalanta will be in New York City, and so I'll primarily be in New York City and kind of bouncing to and from Flagstaff. But again, Molly and I have kind of worked really well from afar. It was funny. I don't think I saw a single workout of hers leading into the Olympic trials, which we realized afterwards, which was kind of funny. But since then, obviously, I'm going out there a lot more, and we've kind of worked on a system that works. And if ever Molly's kind of like, oh yeah, like I need more time, or do you guys want to come out this or that? It kind of works out. And Mary's really accommodating. And because Flagstaff is obviously such a great place to train at the end of the day, and it's a great altitude location, but the team is based in New York City. And so that's something that we are based in kind of proper Manhattan. And so, yeah, I'll be coaching obviously the pros at Atlanta, Molly, but then also I am coaching people through the training program that we offer at Atlanta. And so people are welcome to sign up on their website if people want. And basically it goes through Final Surge, which is really exciting. And it's really fun just to work with people from around the country, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, Jon, is there anything else you would like to tell the listeners about your experience, or that you want to share in terms of their own running, a lesson that they could take into their own training? Anything you want to share?
I would say at the end of the day, yeah, just listen to your body. And I think the results will come if you're just kind of constantly listening to your body, and then also relying on friends or mentors within the sport. If you're looking to succeed, I think that's the recipe for success there.
Good advice. Thank you. Well, I encourage people to go check out the Atalanta website where you can find out more. You also have social media, correct?
I do. Go yes. Green XC.
Go Green XC. People can check. You're going to have to change that to like bronze medalist coach or something.
Green is the new bronze. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. Yes. See if that's taken. Yeah. Hopefully by the time this comes out that you have that account or something.
Hopefully, yeah.
Or something like that. Well, Jon, thank you so much for sharing with us and letting us get a glimpse behind the curtain. We really appreciate you, and thank you for, well, I'm British, so I'm excited for Molly, as having interviewed Molly and got to know her a little bit, but I struggle to say we, as I'm not American. So on behalf of my listeners, thank you for bringing home another medal for the USA. And just appreciate all you've done. So thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Before we end this episode, I just want to take a moment to shout out my podcast editor, Jeremy Nessel, who has done such a wonderful job of looking after my podcast, taking out all the mishaps in the episodes, while still keeping in the vulnerability and the realness and the rawness of the conversation. This is not one of those podcasts where I take out the ums and the ers and sometimes the delay in words, because I think it's very important to keep that authenticity. We're surrounded by perfected and manicured everything, and I think it's really important that Running for Real stays that way. So thank you to Jeremy for your work. I also want to thank Maria Vargas and Amber Moore, who are also part of my team. They've been a big part of this community and me being able to build this brand. So just want to give them a shout out too. All right, let's get right back to the end of this episode. Thank you so much to Jon today for sharing with us, for doing what he, I guess, working his magic on Molly so she was able to get that bronze medal. And I'm excited to see what he does with the future of Atalanta. So there will be lots of links in the show notes that you can go find at runningforreal.com/episode 264. And I want to thank our sponsors for today, which are Tracksmith. You can get $15 off your order of $75 or more with code Tina15. You can get 20% off your order at youcan.co with code TINAYouCan. And you can get 25% off your offer at insidetracker.com/Tina. That will give you the coupon straight away. Thank you so much for listening, my friends. I'll see you for another Together Run on Monday and another Running for Real next Friday. Thanks for listening.